What is up, guys? Rick Hack is here going over the top 3 tips to increase your DPS in the division. Now I'm going over these methods because they aren't inherently obvious, and I see so many people, especially newer players, who aren't taking advantage of, frankly, free DPS. So that's why we're going over these 3 methods today. Now if you're a really experienced player, it is likely that you've heard of all of these methods. If that's the case, please leave any extra tips you may have in the comment section down below. But again, I see so many people, send me builds and just kind of join me in games, and they aren't utilizing some of these methods. So this will help you out if you are a newer player, if you play 5 hours a week and not 5 hours a day. Now, tip number 1 for increasing your DPS is get a good magazine attachment. And I don't just mean a good magazine attachment, I mean a really good magazine attachment. You see, the thing about the magazine attachment in the division is that it massively increases your DPS. And actually, I'll show you just how much of a difference it makes. So I have my high-end Vector 45 ACP. Now when I put on all the attachments except for the magazine, I go from around 50,000 DPS to then going up to the 60,000 DPS. So all of the attachments except for the magazine increases my DPS of this gun by around 10,000. Then I put on the attachment, and I am raised up to over 100,000 DPS. So think about that. All the other attachments on this gun increase the DPS by around 10,000. The magazine attachment, putting on my high-end magazine, which I got a really good high-end magazine, that increases the DPS by 40,000. So you can see just how much of a difference the magazine attachment makes in the division. Now the tip I'm trying to get across to you guys isn't just, put on a magazine attachment, because I'm sure all of you are already doing that. The tip I'm trying to get across to you is put on a good magazine attachment. Like, go out of your way to craft a high-end magazine, and here's why. We can see with my high-end magazine that I increase magazine size and rate of fire. Magazine size by almost 100%, 99, and then rate of fire by almost 30%. Now, I actually can compare that to the best purple magazine I found with those same stats, and the magazine size increase is only around 72%, and the rate of fire increase is around 22%. Now the difference between that purple magazine attachment and the high-end magazine attachment that you can craft by buying the high-end blueprint that is available for sale from the special gear vendor that's located up in your tech wing in your base of operations for Phoenix credits. But in any event, the difference between the purple one and the high-end one is around 8,000 DPS. So I am increasing my DPS, my displayed DPS, by almost as much as all of the other attachments on the gun. Remember, all the attachments were only 10,000 DPS. So with just upgrading from purple to high end, that's 8,000 more DPS. That is a huge jump. So make sure that if you're wanting to increase your DPS, an easy way is to just invest in a really good magazine. Go out and get a high-end magazine. Buy that blueprint. It's definitely worth it. Now moving on, the second tip I have for you guys is get some good gloves. Out of all of the different gear you can have in the division, your gloves are going to be what increases your DPS the most, essentially for free, if you can spec them right. Now the reason gloves increase your DPS so much is that firstly they spawn with a lot of damage increasing factors. They can get attributes like increased critical hit damage, they can get increased critical hit chance, increased damage against elites, a lot of stuff to do with just increasing your damage. But very importantly, they also come with just an increased damage to a certain gun type. So they can get increased SMG damage by 300 to 400, increase LMG damage by the same amount, increase marksman rifle damage by over 1,000 damage. So basically what you want to do is get a good pair of gloves and make sure that it has some useful perks other than the gun perks. So make sure it does have something to increase critical hit damage or something to increase critical hit chance. That's what I'm going to show you with my gloves. But also make sure that it has an increase to the gun type of your best gun. If you're loving an SMG, make sure you have gloves that have SMG damage plus, 300 to 400. selected, and that is going to massively increase your DPS, as you can see right here. When I go to switch my gloves from, actually these gloves that I have before are better gloves. They're actually level 31 gloves. They have a bigger increase to firearms, but they aren't spec'd out right. They aren't spec'd out to increase my SMG. When I go up to my crappier gloves, they're actually level 30, so they increase firearms by less, but they increase SMG damage. You can see that my DPS for my Vector goes from 102,000 to almost 118,000 damage. So by just putting on better gloves that are more spec'd out towards the gun I actually want to use, I've increased the DPS for that gun by almost 16,000 damage. So you definitely want to be looking out for good rolls on gloves in the Division. Try to increase the damage of your best gun, and then try to make the other factors also damage increasing. Now remember though, this tip kind of does come with a secondary tip, which is have some different pairs of gloves. Have some gloves that increase light machine gun damage on hand, that increase marksman rifle damage on hand. Make sure you have a couple of different pairs of gloves so that if you get an incredible marksman's rifle, for example, you're able to switch your gloves and then really increase the damage output on that particular new gun that you got. Make sure that you're not deleting every single pair of gloves except for your like amazing SMG gloves, because then again, if you do get a different gun type that you really enjoy, like a new marksman's rifle, you are missing out on that free DPS. Now the last tip I have to massively increase your DPS is to put on a certain talent, and this talent is called One is None. You can find this particular talent in the very bottom right hand corner of your talent selection screen. Now what this talent does is that if you headshot an enemy, it gives you a 50% chance to put that bullet back into the magazine. Essentially, it's a 50% chance to not consume ammo whenever you get a headshot. Now you may be thinking, well, how useful is that really? Well, I'm going to show you right now me shooting this target dummy in the shooting range with this talent not selected. And now I'm going to shoot the same target with the talent selected. Still shooting. Still shooting. As you can see, there is a substantial difference between when I don't have the talent and when I do have the talent. I am shooting so many more bullets when I have that talent selected. Now, of course, this is a controlled environment, and all my shots were pretty much headshots, but this talent really does increase your magazine, essentially, by a lot. Like, if this talent said that you get a 50% increase to your magazine, I'm sure everyone would have it selected, but it's just worded differently. Now, of course, the big setback with this perk is that it only works on headshots, but if you actually think to your gameplay and think about playing the Division, most of your shots are headshots, to be quite honest. If you're using a submachine gun and attacking an enemy and he's anywhere close to you, you can very easily place your reticle over the enemy's head and just hold the trigger. And again, most of your shots are going to be headshots. Assault rifles also can get massive headshots. If you get a really good roll on an LMG, you can put it over someone's head and just go to town. Marksman's rifles, you're purposely aiming for the head, and it's quite easy to get a bunch of headshots. And so this perk really comes up a lot. And the best part is that what if I told you that the chance was actually mathematically above 50%, and here's why. When this actually triggers, so if you get a headshot and this perk actually does trigger and it puts the bullet back into your magazine, and by the way, there's no cooldown, it can happen all the time on every shot, but however, that bullet that gets put back into the magazine, so your magazine goes from 30 to 31, and then you shoot that 31st bullet. That new bullet that you got again has a chance to trigger. So the free bullets that it's giving you with this talent also have a mathematical chance, they have a 50% chance to also proc this talent and trigger again. So you can technically get like 4, 5, 6 bullets, although it's mathematically very unlikely to go that high, but it is possible to get 5 extra bullets from a single shot. Because again, it can trigger off of the new bullets that it awards you. And I mean, we all saw at the beginning of the video how powerful magazine attachments were. This is kind of like putting on a blue magazine attachment on your gun, like additionally adding on again 50% more magazine size to your weapon. That's how powerful it is. And although putting on this talent doesn't actually increase the displayed DPS in-game, increasing your magazine size essentially and increasing the time before you need to reload is obviously going to overall increase your damage output. So by just changing your talent, you can get a free 10 to 20,000 DPS. Now that's it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed and found this helpful. Now if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and sharing this video. Now if you want to see more Division content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. Now if you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.